the question of why Texas and why does Texas matter. In 1962, John Steinbeck wrote a great book called Travels with Charlie, and he basically got in his truck and drove across the United States. And he writes, Texas is a state of mind. Texas is an obsession. Above all, Texas is a nation in every sense of the word. But I think it is more than that. It is a mystique closely approximating a religion. And this is true to the extent that people either passionately love Texas or passionately hate it. I think that remains true today. My name is David Hamrick, and I'm the director of the University of Texas Press. The Texas Bookshelf Project is an attempt to write the history and culture of a state in a way that's never been done. We're trying to tell the big story of Texas.
I think Texas is perfect for a project like the Texas Bookshelf Project because there's so much going on in Texas. I mean, it's on all of these fronts that these books will cover. I mean, it's just exploding, in terms of politics, in terms of business, in terms of film, in terms of interactive, and everything. Almost every way you can think about it, Texas is at the forefront.
I think it's always a game changer when people take the knowledge and the values and the resources and the technologies of the present day and they take a look at their own moment and what came before. We embrace and absorb knowledge to such a radical degree right now that even if this had been preceded by a similar series 20 years ago, which it has not, you would still find, radically different results, radically different stories being told.
This is what we're supposed to be doing for the state. It's our responsibility. This institution was created for the purpose of exploring things like this. So it was a really great match between the university's resources and the university's responsibility to pull it together and to say, okay, we as an institution are going to make this commitment to do it.
The fact that all of the writers involved are associated in some way or another with the university feels to me like it adds a certain significance and weight to the project. Not that an unaffiliated writer couldn't do a great job with one of these things, but it feels right. It feels like we all belong under the same roof.
Last Academy Awards, we had 2 young Texans nominated for Best Director for 2, films made by Texans. I'd like to do something, I think, a little bit more contemporary, try to cover the last 25 or so years of Texas film history. Lonesome Dove, as I say, to Boyhood, Bill Whitliff to Richard Linklater, Robert Rodriguez. People want to know, how did we get to be, one of the great centers of filmmaking, and that's the story I want to tell.
I think of art and cultural production as a holistic process. I really don't think just in terms of, here is a painting. Let me tell its story in terms of its formal qualities and the histories artistically to which it connects. I think at the heart of my book you'll see, stories of artists, stories of patrons, incredible works of art, treasure houses that hold them, institutions that foster them.
Just recently, I've been researching places where occasions happen. I don't know, at the simplest level, it's kind of a really big party. I think Texans love a big occasion. And so I started looking at Friday Night Lights, the football stadium in a small town. And that's just a huge scene for an occasion. And we even talk about high school football as Friday Night Lights. It's that place. And then all the way to like the Astrodome, which is this amazing place for occasions. So how has architecture played a role in Texans having this sense of occasion and making a place for a big hoopla to happen? I mean, it's Darrell K. Royal Memorial Stadium here, and I mean, anybody who goes to these football games, it's partly about what happens on the field, but it's also just this amazing sense of community and occasion. And when we're talking about ideas or issues or topics in Texas architecture. And then I'll use buildings from all across the eras of Texas history to illustrate this phenomenon or this issue or this idea about Texas architecture.
Most of the general Texas histories tend to run out of gas, I think, because there's so much ground to cover. And one of the priorities I've had, and Dave and I talked about with this book, is it has to take the 20th and 21st century to make it as exciting as the 19th and 18th centuries of Texas histories, and all that entails in terms of the stories that are going on today or were in the recent past. So anything from the Kennedy assassination to Enron, to the moon landing, to what's going on today with Ted Cruz announcing for president. Everything that has happened in Texas, as far as I'm concerned, is fair game for a really important, dramatic story to be told.
I think this project very much underscores the idea that has been perpetuated in the last 10 years about educational excellence. And I think there's a little bit of that, what starts here, what starts with this project can change the world. So in that way, I think it parallels what the university is all about.
I'm just thinking I need to just concentrate on telling a story. That's what I love about books the most, when they're just telling a story. And we got a lot of good stories to tell.